Check out this dresser that a friend of a friend was selling on Marketplace. I got it for $25. The top has some marks on it, but not bad at all. The front in the drawer has some peeling veneer, which is not a big deal for my plans. It also has some of those features on there that are probably just nailed on. So this is one of those times when I'm gonna do things out of order. Taking the knobs off, and right away I kind of get busy taking some of that peeling veneer off. So I know sometimes I drive people crazy because I go out of order, but I get so super excited about my design that I need to just do what I want to do. So don't worry, I'll clean it all and all that stuff and prep it all, but I just might do a little creating and then come back and do a piece at a time. That might drive some people crazy that they like to do all the prep work first and so on, but everybody does their own thing. So these little pieces are easy to remove. They're just nailed on as I suspected. So I just use the flathead screwdriver and just kind of pry them off and pull them off. Same for these little pieces on the side. Hope you don't think I'm ruining the integrity of this dresser, but I have plans for it that are a whole lot fancier than these little things. I cleaned it. And also, so the rag indicated that it was going to be a bleeder, not to mention the fact that I've exposed some raw wood now, so I definitely want to use a stain blocking primer on there. So I'm using some Bonding Boss, and I'm working on the drawer first, because the top drawer, because that's what I have plans for first. So when I pulled the drawer out, it felt a little loose. Structurally, it was okay. It just needed glued in that one space, or just needed another nail. So I'm using the Juliet mold from Iron Orchid Designs and air dry clay. I'm choosing to use air dry clay this time instead of 2-part epoxy, because I know that this mold is probably not going to fit exactly where I need it to. So I might have to manipulate it a little bit, even more so than I would have to if my mold or my casting was fresh with the 2-part epoxy or the resin. You can manipulate it a little bit, but it isn't just bending in this part. In this instance, it's also that I will have to trim it. So I just thought the clay would be better. Now I am challenging myself here, because this mold, I would say, is kind of next level. It's really not just one casting, or like you're picking one thing and making a mold. It's the whole mold. So you really have to get the whole thing in there, and you want to be careful to make sure that you're kind of pushing your clay together to avoid cracking, because air dry clay will crack, it will shrink. So keep that in mind, and I'm trying to keep that in mind as I progress along with this part of the project.
One velvet submarine shoots across the sea as I leave. One piece of sea, the dream lingers here inside of me. Still ink from your head. Still lost.
That took a minute. So now I'm just going to flip it over and very, very carefully and slowly let gravity help me to release the casting from the mold. And as you saw, I used cornstarch to dust the mold for easy release.
Pretty face, I can tell from the look in your eyes that you got a hungry appetite.
We have success, and here's what it looks like. This is so intricate and beautiful. I just love it. Now I am going to take, you didn't see my cute trick where I flipped it over. I actually put it on the smooth side of the mold and then used the tissue paper that I had everything on and flipped the entire thing. So I'm just using the Titebond thick and quick, or is it quick and thick? One or the other. And I use one of those little brushes that you get at Harbor Freight that are just, they're mainly for metalworking. They're horsehair bristle brushes, and they're great because you get a whole bunch of them really cheap and they're disposable. So I can just toss that because nobody wants to wash glue out of brushes, especially not after it's been with this thick stuff.
Have to admit, just admit that you want me. You want me.
I keep the bottle on its side so that I don't have to wait every time for the glue to come down. I take my time and very carefully use that little brush. This is so delicate, and just, move the glue around. You want to make sure you get it to the edges of this mold because you don't want it popping up or being loose on there. We're all glued and getting ready for another flip. This time I'm going to flip it onto the drawer. This is interesting. Oh, gluey hand, but you got to do what you got to do for art, right? So I, again, manipulate this. I can't imagine doing this with resin. So I'm just arranging it. And some of it is going to go off the edges because remember I said we're going to have to trim it. I knew that we would have to do that, but I'm just arranging it and getting as much on the drawer front as I can. And I'm going to have to make some more molds, and I end up making a total of 3.5. And I went through 2 packages of the air dry clay. Carefully taking a blade, I want to get it now while the clay is still wet, and I'm just going along the edge. I do know it is going to shrink a little bit, but I'm going straight down that edge to get rid of the excess, and it's probably all for the better if it shrinks just a little bit. It won't be a lot, but just enough. But that's why we wanted to make sure that we get the glue completely all over the back of these castings. Because of the shrink factor, I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and I'm going to have some lunch. And while I eat my lunch, I enjoy this video from DIYs by Dar. Oh my gosh, it's incredible what she's doing with these molds. Her painting is meticulous. But before I can eat, I remember that I need to make a hole for the knob, so I did that. Now I'm all done, and I did put the knobs on just to make an impression while the clay is still wet, but I will remove them. I could paint at this point if I wanted to, but I want to wait and see how the clay behaves and see if I need to sand anything or anything like that. That way I won't lose any detail. I told you I'd get to prepping the rest of it eventually. So I'm removing those knobs, and as much as I like them, they're probably going to have to go for a different project. The time has come for me to clean the rest of the piece, and of course I'll be priming it as well. More stain blocking primer goes over the entire piece. I put another coat on the drawer with the molds on it because I want to let that sit overnight, see if it shrinks or anything. The paint and the clay can continue to dry all together, and then we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. I come in the next day and inspect the drawer, and it looks really good. There's just some color that didn't, there's peeking through, but that's okay because that's just my primer. I fit it into the dresser just to see what it'll look like, and it's obvious that I need to do some filing down on the sides or sanding to get it to be a tight fit. Now, I've been dying to use this. This is the Portrait Mode Stencil from Debbie's Design Diary from her DIY a Go-Go website. So the stencil is amazing, and it comes with the face, different hairdos, accessories. It's just incredible. So I couldn't wait to start creating. So my plan was I put it on there, and then I think the best thing for me to do, I chose the hairstyle, which I was going to do sort of like an Audrey Hepburn kind of vibe, and just wanted to give a real romantic feel. Originally I was thinking pinks for this, but then I just kind of went back to my paint, and I'm trying not to open things, new jars of paint. So I just wanted to see what I had open. So I picked a chocolate brown, a terracotta color, like a tea rose, and an apricot color. So I had been looking at some pictures of portraits, and always behind a portrait, it always looks like there's a sort of a shadow or a highlight maybe, but it's always kind of blended, kind of a halo around the person. So that's the look that I'm going to try to create here. And I start with the tea rose color, and I'm just blending in, and I take the terracotta color, which is kind of orangey, but you know what, I'm just kind of going along and doing my thing. And really, like I said, it's kind of a challenge just to use colors that I need to use up. And of course these are complementary colors, pinks, oranges, brown, but I'm just kind of wanting to blend them together. So it looks kind of wild right now, but I'm going to just apply the paint and then use a mister bottle and use a neutral brush to blend the first two colors together. I keep working with it, remembering to wipe off that brush, that neutral brush in between coats. And now I'm bringing that chocolate brown color in next to the terracotta, which looks, again, very orangey on the screen.
One velvet submarine shoots across the scene as I leave. One piece of sea, the dream lingers here inside of me. Still ink from your head.
After I'm done blending, I come in and get all the places that I missed. Those roses are really so detailed that there are so many spots, it's really easy to miss them.
You don't custom armchair, worn to the nub. That's me now. Oh, you know I'm different now. I'm rippled somehow.
I don't profess to be the best paint blender in the world. I just do what I do until I like what I see. And sometimes with blending, you just keep going and going and going. You never really do like it. So you have to accept at some point where you're going to stop. Sometimes when I'm blending, I see what I want to see, and then I'm able to just step back and stop. And then other times I drive myself crazy with it.
I can tell from the look in your eyes that you got a
So I've got her taped together the way I want her. And then I bring it down. This way I can put it in the right position. I can get, her hair. I don't want to bring any of the stencil up onto the mold part, the castings of the roses. So that's why I'm doing this. And I know part of it's going to run off the bottom, and that's okay.
shoots across the scene as I leave.
Then I carefully remove everything but her face and her shoulders so I can get started.
Pretty face, you don't have to woo me. Just admit that you want me. You want me.
I was going to stick with the brown, and then I decided to use black. I even considered doing a fleshy color, but then I thought, no, that wouldn't look right for her features. So this is the first time using this, so I'm just having fun playing with it. In retrospect, I would have chosen a piece that didn't have those wavy lines in between the drawers. I would have chosen something with a more flat front. But, when I saw this dresser, I don't know why immediately I just wanted to do that Juliet mold and this stencil. So thanks so much, Debbie, for creating such a cool stencil, and thanks to JRV for manufacturing it. I bring in an ivory color and put a collar on her, which is roses. I thought it would be appropriate with the rose drawer. So I'm doing that, and then I kind of fill it in as if it were a sheer negligee. While I have that color on my brush, I just go up to the roses and I do a dry brush all over those roses. And wow, does it make those details pop. Next, I use another stencil from the Royal Stencil Company. You might remember this one from my kitchen video, the spring challenge, the Ugly Duckling challenge. So I did a whole wall in this, and now I'm being really selective and I'm only doing a certain part of the motif because I don't want to run into that area where the frame is around the sides. So I'm just kind of feeling for it and just making a pleasing design. That's the beauty of stenciling. You can pick and choose whatever parts of the stencil that you want to use. I see so many fun things happening with that stencil of Debbie's. It's just amazing. So you really do need to go to the website and check it out because her chair that she did is on there and it's incredible. So all along, I was kind of thinking that I wanted some typography on there. So I couldn't really find a word that was suitable, and finally, charming came to mind. I had bought this cheetah print vinyl, and I decided to give it a go in the silhouette machine. I have never used vinyl on furniture, so this is a first. And I also decided it would be kind of cool to make a rose out of the cheetah print as well. So I'm still getting used to that machine, so I don't like that area right there that I was pointing to. I feel like it just cuts off at her shoulder, so I want that area to be more of a halo around her. So I'm going to take some of the pink and just kind of do a little more blending and just make that area bigger and more of a halo around her. So I put the word onto the transfer paper, and now I'm going to put it on the piece, much like a transfer. So I'm lining it up with a drawer so it's nice and straight, and I like it, but something was kind of bugging me later that I corrected on it, and you'll see as well. I had no idea from the get-go that I'd be using transfers as well. I had these left over from the secretary that I did. It's the Joie Des Roses transfer from Iron Orchid Designs. So I'm cutting off some of the parts that I don't want. There's oranges in this, and I don't want to introduce another thing. I don't want these oranges to be something. It's kind of roses. It's the woman. It's charming. We've got the cheetah. So I think adding some oranges might be a little bit too much. So I'm fussy cutting around some areas, and in other areas I do just a straight cut so it goes on the side of the dresser. Like I said, this was not a plan at all, but the more that I worked with those colors, I just thought about that, and the colors just seemed appropriate. And they really do complement the piece, and they soften it up. They soften those colors up so much. So I add one of the cheetah roses, and I kind of goofed when I did it, and I kind of cut off the one side. So I strategically cut another one of the transfers so that I can just layer it. Back to the drawer, I pull it out, and then I use a razor blade to cut off along the edges anything that is in my way. And then I also do the same in case there's anything on that drawer or on the top where the drawer slides in. So I'm just kind of finding my way with this and trying to decide what's obstructing it. I still don't have it in quite the whole way, and that just may be the nature of it. So I'm just going to keep going with it. I take a small brush and just go around all the areas that I missed. After sanding the top, I try something. I try a dark ebony colored stain just to see if that will work. And I didn't get a great result on the top. It looks okay at first, but when I wipe it back, you can still see the marks. So I'm gonna have to let a sleep on this one because it's oil-based stain and it's too soon to do anything else with it. So I may end up painting over it. Who knows? But I'm showing you here that I did do over the mirror, and I also did the legs, and they turned out great. Now it's time for a little bit of makeup. So I'm just giving her kind of an apricot color. It's a different color than I've used so far, but you do see it in the transfer, so it works out pretty well. And it looks very harsh at first, but you know what? Doesn't it look like that when we do our own makeup sometimes at first until we get it blended in?
One velvet submarine shoots across the scene as I leave.
Here's the part that was bothering me, and I felt like that it was too dark behind the end of the word charming. So I very carefully went around the letters in the terracotta color and then came back in with a little more of the chocolate and blended it all together. And I feel better about it. You can see it better already. Now, everybody I showed the picture to last night said they could read the word charming, but it still wasn't, standing out as much as I wanted it to. I also kind of screwed up whenever I was making it. I should have made the letters a little bigger. Now I'm doing a little bit of a sand. I just want to distress that Cheetah is so shiny and also distress the transfer. And now I'm cleaning up the mirror a little bit because I'm going to add a little bit of transfer to the mirror.
Got a hungry appetite.
Again, I do a little fussy cutting and also use some of the straight edges, but I avoided those oranges again. This time we got a butterfly, and the other one there was a bird. I'm okay with birds and butterflies, but the oranges I think are too much for this piece.
You know I'm different, no, I'm rippled somehow.
You'll see the knobs already on the piece. The day before, I took some gilding wax in bronze and just went over the silver. It was kind of like a brushed silver, but I just didn't want silver because everything was warm tones. So I wanted to keep it warm instead of the cool. But I love these knobs because they just look like diamonds. So how perfect for our Audrey Hepburn-esque person. My Posca markers were delivered today. Tomorrow we're going to bring this baby home.
I can tell from the look in your eyes that you.
My stain was not tacky anymore, so I just wiped it off, and I'll be applying a coat of the chocolate paint and touching up everywhere that I missed.
One velvet submarine shoots across the scene as I leave.
The markers are beautiful. There's a fine tip and a regular tip that you can switch either side.
Oh, pretty face, you don't have to woo me. Just admit that you want me. You want me. Pretty face, I can tell from the look in your eyes that you got a hungry appetite. dream lingers here inside of me. Still ink from your head, still lost in demons. Pretty face, you don't have to woo me, just admit that you owe me. You owe me. Pretty face, I can tell from the look in your eyes that you got a hungry appetite. One custom armchair, worn to the nub, that's me now. Oh, you know I'm different now.
There were these little recesses down the side of the dresser. I went through all of my paint inlays to see if I could find something that was suitable. Finally, I landed on this from the Rose Trellis set in pink, and I kind of modified it to suit my needs. There was a larger rose in the center, and I just cut it out and then used the two smaller pieces. I was going to use the larger roses in that blank spot above that recess, and I did. I'm not sure which fashion designer it was that said, after you get dressed and put on all your accessories, look in the mirror and then take one thing off. That's exactly what I did here. And it doesn't seem like it's congruent with a Maximalist furniture piece, which I think this is, but I looked at it and I did a before and after picture, and I decided to remove it after all. So I've done videos before where I've done the paint inlays, but you basically put the inlay in the wet paint, you wet it, you let it dry, you wet it again, and then you pull off those papers, and then your design remains. So I took those Posca markers and I took one of the more peachy, orangey colors because these were really pink and I didn't have that bright pink on there. So there's where I did a comparison and I just decided it was better without. So I just painted over the other inlay. And then I covered everything with a clear coat of satin. I left the knobs in because I also did around the knob to seal in the bronze gilding wax. I added some decoupage paper and some remaining transfer scraps to embellish the drawers. Remember how this piece looked before? We'll take a look now. Thank you so much for always watching. If you aren't a regular watcher and you like this content, please consider subscribing. Like the video and share it with your friends. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Find Statement Designs on the web at www.statementdesigns.org. Find us on social media as Statement Designs. Stay well.